All right, today we're diving into a condition that's, let's be honest, widely misunderstood: schizophrenia. But we're not just going to list symptoms. We're going to try to get a real sense of what it actually feels like to experience the world in a way that's fundamentally different.
So let me start by asking you something. What makes your reality feel real? I mean, think about it. Your senses, your thoughts, your emotions, they all kind of work together, right? They create this consistent, stable experience of the world. But what happens when that very foundation starts to shift?
Okay, before we go any further, we have to clear up the biggest myth right out of the gate. Schizophrenia does not mean split personality. That's a huge misconception. The reality is, well, it's much more complex. It's a condition that can cause a really profound disconnect from reality itself.
So let's move past that myth and really look at the real human impact of this condition.
And this right here, this is the most crucial point. Schizophrenia doesn't define who a person is, it fundamentally changes how they experience the world. It's about perception, not identity.
To really get this, we're going to look at three interconnected areas. And we have to start with the cognitive impact, basically how the condition affects a person's thinking. This can show up in a few different ways. You've got disorganized thoughts, which make it incredibly hard to follow a conversation or even form a coherent sentence. Then there are delusions, which are these very firmly held false beliefs, like truly believing you're being followed. And of course, hallucinations, which is perceiving things that aren't actually there, with hearing voices being the most common. So what does that disorganized thought actually feel like? Well, imagine you're trying to listen to just one friend talk, but in your head there are a dozen different radios playing at the same time, all on different stations. That's the kind of overwhelming internal chaos that can make just focusing almost impossible. And you can probably imagine, right? That kind of constant cognitive static has a huge, huge effect on a person's emotional world. So one common symptom you might hear about is called flat affect. And this is a really key distinction. It means there's a reduced outward show of emotion. It's not that the person isn't feeling anything. Oh, the feeling is there. But the ability to actually express it through their face or their tone of voice is diminished. You could almost think of it as a kind of emotional static. The signal, the actual feeling, is there on the inside, but something is interfering with its broadcast to the outside world. And this goes beyond just a muted expression. People can also experience emotions that might seem totally out of sync with what's happening. Or they might have a really tough time even identifying or putting a name to what they're feeling. And all of this, as you can guess, can lead to this really overwhelming sense of anxiety or agitation. So we have disorganized thinking, we have this really complex emotional world. It just makes sense that this would have a direct impact on behavior, right? When your inner world feels that chaotic, your actions are going to start to reflect that. This can lead to things like social withdrawal. And that's not because someone is being antisocial. It's often a coping mechanism for a world that just feels too overwhelming. It can lead to apathy, where the motivation to do even simple things just vanishes, and it can result in what's called disorganized behavior, which is really just that internal chaos we talked about bubbling up to the surface. And here is the single most important thing to remember through all of this. None of these behaviors are choices. They are symptoms. They are the visible result of an incredibly complex neurological condition. And just understanding that, that's the first real step toward empathy. Okay, so let's bring this all together, because thinking, feeling, and acting, these aren't separate issues living in their own little boxes. They are completely and totally intertwined. They create a single, whole person experience. This is exactly why we say schizophrenia isn't just a condition of the mind, it's a whole person condition. You can see how each of these pieces, the thinking, the feeling, and the acting, they all directly influence each other. They're all part of the same system. It's like a chain reaction, The disorganized thoughts can create feelings of intense fear and confusion. And those feelings can lead to behaviors like withdrawal as a way to self-protect. It's a feedback loop. How you think affects how you feel, which then guides how you act. It's all connected. And that brings us to the most important question, really. If we can stop seeing isolated symptoms and start seeing the whole person behind them, how does that change our response? How does that change our conversations, our compassion, and our support? I think it changes everything.